Donald Trump believed he could silence Jasmine Crockett with his usual bluster, but in less than a minute, she laid documents on the table that utterly blindsided him. The morning had begun like any other in Washington. Yet for Donald Trump, it was already spiraling into a perilous day. He was in the Oval Office before sunrise, the blinds drawn tight, the air thick with the scent of coffee and palpable tension. On the resolute desk, a leather folder marked confidential held a collection of unsettling papers. Trump's eyes rapidly scanned signatures, contract dates, and wire transfer amounts. Each page presented the same damning problem: his name. Alongside Ivanka's link to deals the public was never meant to discover, he tapped a particular document revealing an offshore account tied to a foreign construction project publicly touted as solely Ivanka's brainchild. Yet here was his signature unmistakably beneath hers. "Get rid of these," Trump commanded, his gaze still fixed on the desk. A White House aide, visibly pale and uneasy, hesitated. "Sir, these are originals," Trump's voice, sharp enough to cut the air, sliced through the momentary silence. "I said, get rid of them, shred them, burn them. I don't care. But no one sees these, especially her." By her, he meant Jasmine Crockett. For months, Jasmine had meticulously woven together complex tapestry of Trump's private dealings, repeatedly encountering dead ends. Each time she neared a breakthrough, evidence would vanish, witnesses would recant, and paper trails would mysteriously go cold. But Jasmine wasn't one to surrender. She understood that truth possessed an undeniable weight, and if she could hoist it high enough for the world to witness, it would inevitably crush the edifice of lies built around it. That morning, in her office across town, she was sipping tea and poring over another stack of files when her chief investigator burst in. "You need to see this," he exclaimed, dropping a thick envelope onto her desk. Inside were photocopies of the very documents Trump had just been scrutinizing. His signature, Ivanka's signature, intricate project details, bank routing numbers, all laid bare in black and white. "Where did this come from?" she asked. "Anonymous delivery," he replied. "No return address, just this." Jasmine leaned back, her eyes narrowing as she studied the pages. "If this is real," she mused, "it's the thread that unravels everything." Her investigator nodded. "And there's more. There's a photo." He slid a glossy print across the desk. Jasmine's gaze sharpened. Image showed Trump seated at a long table in what appeared to be a lavish hotel abroad, pen in hand. Ivanka sat. Beside him, a smile playing on her lips as she pushed a stack of papers toward him. Behind them, two foreign officials stood, observing the signatures. Jasmine placed the photo next to the documents. "He's been telling the world Ivanka had no role in these deals," she stated. "Now we have proof they were partners." She wasted no time. Calls were made, folders packed, and by midday, she had secured a slot to present the evidence in a closed-door committee meeting one Trump himself had been ordered to attend. Word reached the White House swiftly. "She's got something," an aide whispered to Trump. "What?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing, a familiar tell when he felt cornered. Then his jaw tightened, and he forced a smile. "She's bluffing. She's got nothing." But deep down, he knew this was the dawn of something dangerous, something entirely beyond his control. When the appointed hour arrived, the committee room fell into a tense silence. Trump entered with his usual swagger, offering forced charm to his allies, but his eyes constantly darted toward the folder resting before Jasmine. She sat calmly, her posture erect, her face a mask, her hands resting on that folder as if it were the sharpest weapon in the room. The chairman offered a brief introduction, then nodded to Jasmine. She rose, took a slow, deliberate breath, and began, not with pleasantries or hesitation, but with the weighty resonance of truth in her voice. "Mr. President," she said, looking him directly in the eye, "hold in my hands proof that you and Ivanka Trump were directly involved in foreign contracts, deals you swore under oath she had nothing to do with. These are your signatures, sir. This is your photo. This is the truth you've so desperately tried to bury." The room seemed to hold its breath. Trump leaned forward, his lips curling. "Lies," he spat. "All of it." But Jasmine didn't flinch. She placed the first document onto the table for all to see. The bold black ink of his name blazed up from the page, an undeniable accusation that could no longer be silenced. With that, the battle truly began. The folder in front of Jasmine Crockett might have appeared unremarkable brown, yet in that charged committee room, it was the loudest presence imaginable. Trump sat opposite her, his posture deceptively relaxed, like a man accustomed to dominating any space he occupied. But Jasmine noted the subtle clenching of his jaw every few seconds. He was calculating, poised to strike. The chairman cleared his throat. "Miss Crockett, you may proceed." Jasmine did not rush. She took a measured step forward, opening the folder just enough to slide out a single page. Her eyes remained locked on Trump, never glancing at the document itself. "Mr. President, you swore under oath that Ivanka Trump had no role in the Royal Crescent Tower deal. You told the American people she remained uninvolved in those negotiations. This," she stated, holding up the page, "is your signature directly beneath hers, authorizing the transfer of $48 million to a foreign development partner." Trump leaned forward, a condescending smirk spreading across his face. "Paper can be forged, Jasmine. You know that." "Oh, I agree," she replied calmly. "Which is why I also have the security photo from the signing table. You and 2 foreign ministers all in one shot. Same papers, same date, same signatures." The room stirred, chairs creaked, whispers hissed among aides. Trump waved a dismissive hand. "You think a staged picture means anything? This is a witch hunt. You've been obsessed with me for years, Crockett. Maybe you should focus on doing your job instead of chasing fairy tales." Jasmine didn't take the bait. She walked to the committee. Clerk handed over the photo and watched as the image flashed onto the projection screen at the far end of the room. It was crystal clear. Trump and Ivanka in a lavish suite, both leaning over the same stack of papers. The chairman turned his gaze to Trump. "Mr. President, is that you in this photograph?" Trump's smirk evaporated for a fleeting moment. "It's a doctor-read image." Jasmine was prepared. She slid out the next document, a hotel guest registry from that exact date, showing 2 presidential suites booked under Donald J. Trump and Ivanka Trump, complete with security detail listed by name. "This," she announced, "was obtained legally from the property's public business records." Trump slammed his hand on the table. "This is ridiculous. You think you can paint me as some kind of criminal? You don't know who you're dealing with?" Jasmine stepped closer, her voice now steady but sharper. "No, Mr. President, I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A man who hides behind power, who believes loyalty means silence, and who uses his own family to cover his tracks." The room went utterly still, the air tightening perceptibly between them. Trump's eyes narrowed into a searing glare. "Careful, Crockett. Careful," Jasmine shot back. "The only one who should be careful is the man sitting here pretending these documents don't exist." An aide leaned in to whisper something to Trump, but he waved them off, his stare locked on her. "You think the public will believe you? A nobody." "I'm the President of the United States," Jasmine smiled, a chilling, humorless expression. "And yet here you are, squirming in your chair because of a nobody." The chairman tapped his gavel. "Order, please. Miss Crockett, do you have additional evidence?" "Yes," Jasmine affirmed, reaching into her folder once more. "But before I present it, I want to make something clear. I don't bring accusations without proof. I'm not here to speculate. I'm here to show the truth. And the truth is that Ivanka Trump was not a passive bystander. She was your partner in these deals. There's one detail in particular I think you'd rather no one in this room hear." Trump shifted, his shoulders tightening. "You're bluffing." Jasmine took one slow step forward, lowering her voice just enough to force the entire room to lean in. "Mr. President, she's not your daughter." Gasps rippled across the room. Trump's face went from pale to flushed scarlet. "You're insane." Jasmine didn't flinch. "Am I? Or is that why you've gone to such great lengths to keep every paper, every transaction, every trace of this relationship buried? Because the truth isn't just about money, is it, Mr. President? It's about identity. It's about lies that stretch deeper than anyone realized." For the first time, Trump offered no retort. He simply sat back, lips pressed into a thin line, eyes hard, but suddenly quiet. Jasmine allowed the silence to hang, heavy and suffocating, before returning to her seat. The folder remained open before her, more documents waiting inside. This wasn't over, not even close. The echo of the chairman's gavel still vibrated in the air, yet no one in the room moved. The revelation, "She's not your daughter," had landed like a thunderclap, freezing everyone in their seats. Cameras clicked in rapid bursts. Aides shifted uneasily, whispering into phones. Trump sat motionless, but the sheer tension in his body betrayed him. His hand gripped the edge of the table so tightly his knuckles turned stark white. For a man who prided himself on never losing control, this was the first visible crack in his armor. A Jasmine Crockett knew it. She didn't press him immediately, understanding that a direct attack was precisely what he would expect. Instead, she let the silence expand, allowing him to feel the profound weight of his own stillness. Then she leaned back, reached into her folder, and pulled out a thicker stack of papers. "This," she stated clearly, "it's a record of transactions between the Royal Crescent Tower project and offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Each account is linked by beneficiary codes, and one of those codes is tied directly to Ivanka Trump's passport." Trump's head snapped toward her. "That's a lie." Jasmine didn't blink. "Then explain why your private attorney signed off on the wire transfers. Explain why the funds were split into irregular amounts, small enough to avoid automatic reporting, but large enough to total over $100 million over 18 months. The chairman raised an eyebrow. "Miss Crockett, are you suggesting ... "Not suggesting," Jasmine interrupted, her voice firm. "I'm showing." She laid the papers flat, sliding them toward the clerk. "This isn't speculation. These are bank documents from an independent audit cross-verified with federal financial oversight." Trump scoffed, a hollow, brittle sound. "So what? Man can't help his daughter succeed. That's what this is, isn't it? You hate that my family thrives." Jasmine's eyes sharpened. "That's the thing, Mr. President. If she's not your daughter, then she isn't family. She's your business partner, which means these payments weren't gifts. They were payouts. And payouts under federal law must be disclosed." Gasps rippled through the room again. The clerk passed the documents down the line. One by one, committee members leaned forward, scanning the numbers, the signatures, the official stamps. Trump leaned back, attempting to reclaim the posture of a man in control, but the shadows under his eyes deepened visibly. "You think the public will care about some dusty bank forms? They love me, always have, always will." Jasmine offered him no satisfaction of a reaction. She flipped to the next piece of evidence, a sworn statement from a former Trump Organization executive. The statement detailed a private meeting where Trump allegedly instructed Ivanka to use a false birth certificate as leverage to secure political immunity in case of a financial investigation. The room murmured with disbelief. One committee member set down the document slowly, as if it were too hot to hold. Trump pointed at Jasmine, his finger trembling. "This is character assassination. You're a disgrace to this country." She met his glare head, "And if telling the truth is a disgrace, then I'll wear it proudly. You built an empire on deception. You've turned loyalty into a weapon. Now you're trying to hide behind a lie, so big it could unravel everything you've ever claimed to be." Trump tried to speak again, but his voice caught in his throat. That moment of hesitation, small but visible, sent a ripple through the room. Jasmine saw it. Everyone saw it. She closed the folder, but not entirely. "I have more," she said, her tone cold. "But even this is more than enough to show that the man sitting in that chair isn't just dishonest. He's dangerous. And the woman you've called your daughter, she's not who you say she is. She never was." Trump's face twisted into something between rage and raw fear, but for once he didn't interrupt, just sat there, shoulders tight, lips pressed shut. Jasmine turned to the chairman. "I'm ready to move to the next phase of questioning." The chairman nodded slowly, his gaze heavy on Trump. "Very well." It was clear to everyone in that room. The balance had shifted, Trump's confidence was cracking, and Jasmine Crockett had her foot firmly on the fault line. This was no longer merely about proving a lie. It was about pulling the thread that could unravel Donald Trump entirely. The hearing room felt smaller. Now the walls seemed to close in, the air growing thicker with every passing second. Donald Trump sat rigid in his chair, his signature bravado utterly stripped away. The documents on the table before him weren't just paper. They were a slow, tightening noose. Jasmine Crockett had adjusted her microphone, her eyes fixed on him. She could almost smell the desperation seeping through his carefully constructed facade. "Mr. President," she began, her voice calm but edged with steel, "I want to be very clear for the record. Everything I am about to present has been verified through 3 separate channels: federal auditors, international banking oversight, and sworn testimony from individuals with first-hand involvement." She tapped a folder, then opened it with deliberate care. Inside was a photograph, grainy but unmistakable. Trump and Ivanka were seated in a dimly lit room, stacks of cash piled on the table between them. In the corner of the photo, a date stamp perfectly matched the time frame of the Cayman Island transfers. The room erupted in low gasps. Trump leaned forward, squinting at the photo as if his disbelief could somehow erase it. "Fake," he spat. It's fake AI, Photoshop, whatever you people call it now. Jasmine raised an eyebrow. Funny, because the original file is stored on the secure server of your former CFO, and that same CFO provided us with the metadata showing. The image was taken with a phone registered to your personal account. Trump's jaw tightened. His eyes flickered toward his lawyers, but they looked as pale and inert as the marble pillars in the room. Jasmine slid another sheet forward. This, Mr. President, is a handwritten ledger. You'll notice the initials DT repeated. You'll also notice notations for cash withdrawals and the phrase family fund. Care to explain? Trump offered a short, humorless laugh. Family fund means family business. Every businessman has one. Jasmine didn't miss a beat except when the family in question is legally unrelated and the fund is used to launder money through Shell, corporations that Mr. President is money laundering. It's plain and simple. The chairman leaned forward. Do you have proof of the Shell corporations? Jasmine reached into the folder again, producing a series of incorporation documents, each bearing signatures from proxies tied back to the Trump organization's legal team. Every one of these entities was dissolved within a year of receiving funds. No legitimate business records, no tax filings, just bank accounts that opened, received large transfers, and then vanished. Trump shifted uncomfortably, but his voice came out louder, more aggressive. This is a witch hunt. You're all obsessed with tearing me down because I'm better than you, because I win, as Jasmine's gaze didn't waver. If winning means stealing, deceiving, and betraying the public trust, then yes, you've been very successful. The room fell quiet once more. You could hear the faint click of cameras, the shuffle of papers, the tension mounting almost unbearably. She pulled one last piece of evidence from the folder, a notarized affidavit from a woman whose name had been blacked out for protection. In it, the witness claimed that Trump personally admitted Ivanka was not his biological daughter, and that the truth was buried to protect business arrangements tied to her public image. This isn't about your personal life, Jasmine said, her tone dropping to something almost cold. This is about how you weaponized that lie. You presented her as family to hide questionable transfers. You used that image to shield both of you from scrutiny. You sold the American people a fiction, and you profited from it. Trump's face was crimson now, his voice cracking as he barked. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just a nobody trying to make a name for yourself at my expense. Jasmine leaned forward, her voice low but piercingly sharp. I don't need a name, Mr. President. The truth speaks for itself, and right now it's screaming. The chairman banged his gavel once, but it couldn't stop the crushing weight of what had just transpired. Trump had been cornered. The bluster wasn't working. Every accusation was met with a document. Every denial with irrefutable proof. Across the room, aides whispered in frantic tones. Even some of Trump's staunchest allies avoided his gaze. The first time in the hearing, Donald Trump looked small, and Jasmine Crockett knew it. This was the moment his armor finally shattered. The chairman's gavel strike echoed through the hearing room, but the noise barely cut through the profound tension. Trump sat rigid, his hands gripping the edge of the table so tightly his knuckles were white. His jaw was clenched, his lips a thin, angry line. The swagger he had walked in with hours ago was utterly gone. Jasmine Crockett didn't rush. She knew the potent value of silence, understanding that the pause after a devastating blow could be even more powerful than the blow itself. She shuffled her papers slowly, deliberately, letting the room sit in the uncomfortable truth. Then she looked straight at Trump. Mr. President, she said evenly, you have denied, deflected, and insulted your way through this hearing. But what you haven't done, what you can't do, is refute the evidence. Can't erase your own signature. You can't explain away the shell companies. And you certainly can't hide from the fact that you lied about the most personal thing a man can claim, his own child. Trump's face twitched, but he didn't speak. His lawyer sat frozen, their hands hovering over their notes as if they'd simply given up mid-defense. Jasmine reached into her folder one last time and pulled out a thick-bound packet. The front page bore the distinguished seal of the U.S. Treasury Department. She slid it across the table toward the chairman, who glanced at the cover, his eyebrows lifting slightly. This, she continued, is a full forensic analysis of the offshore accounts tied to the so-called family fund. The analysis shows direct transfers from foreign entities, including those under investigation for arms trafficking, into accounts managed by Ivanka Trump. And those accounts, Mr. President, were co-signed by you. A murmur spread through the room like a slow ripple. Trump shifted in his seat, leaning forward as if trying to intimidate her, but Jasmine didn't flinch. "You didn't just hide money," she said, her tone sharpening. "You took money from criminals. You used your daughter's name to hide it. When you were cornered, you hid behind the lie that she was your blood. You weaponized family for profit." Trump's voice cracked into a sudden roar. "You're disgusting. You're twisting everything." She cut him off instantly. "No, Mr. President, the only thing twisted here is your sense of right and wrong." Her words hit like a hammer. The room fell completely silent. Even the aides who had been whispering earlier were now staring at her wide-eyed. Jasmine stood up, her chair scraping lightly against the floor. She picked up a single sheet from her folder and held it up so everyone could see. "This is a sworn statement from a man who worked in your private office for 12 years. In this statement, he recalls you telling him, and I quote, 'It's not about blood, it's about the brand.' You said that in reference to Ivanka, and you used that brand to secure illegal deals and launder millions." She set the paper down gently, almost reverently, like it was the final, undeniable piece of a puzzle that had been in plain sight all along. "It's the president," she said, her voice steady. "This is not politics. This is not partisanship. This is about greed. This is about corruption. This is about a man who thought he could rewrite the truth to fit his own pockets." Trump opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His hands, once locked in a show of control, now rested limply on the table. His eyes darted from Jasmine to the chairman, to the reporters, to the cameras. He looked for an ally, a lifeline, but there was none. Jasmine took one step closer, closing the space between them. Her eyes were locked on his. "You can lie to the public, you can lie to your followers, but you can't lie to the evidence. And after today, you can't hide from it either." The chairman's gavel struck again, signaling the end of her time. But Jasmine didn't need another minute. She had dismantled him piece by piece, leaving nothing but the exposed truth. As she gathered her papers and stepped back, the murmurs in the room grew louder, no longer in disbelief, but in certainty. They had seen it with their own eyes. The so-called master of the deal was nothing more than a man caught in his own intricate web of lies. Trump remained seated, his posture slumped now. His face was pale under the bright lights. For once, he had no words, no insults, no spin, just silence. And in that silence, the weight of Jasmine's final blow hung heavy. The truth was out and there was no coming back from